Hi, folks. Through the course of everyone's life, you're going to meet a couple people that I'm sure are going to make an impression on you or help you create a wonderful memory. But you'll be very, very, very lucky if you meet one person who has that impression on everyone. Hi. Welcome to Around the Town with Marilyn Forbes. If you open up a Webster's Dictionary and look up the word passionate, in very fine print, I'm sure you're going to see the name Rhonda Allison. Rhonda was passionate about everything in her life, from her family to her friends, to the children that she taught, to her love for God. Rhonda left us very suddenly and way too soon, but her legacy and her memory will live on forever. For today's very, very, very special show, we're going to pay tribute to Rhonda, and we're going to speak to Patty here at the library, and we're going to speak to her daughter, Rochelle, and they're going to tell us a little bit about Rhonda and bring back some of the wonderful things that we can remember her by. So please, folks, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Well, folks, to begin our very special program today, I have Patty with me, who is the library director here at Scottdale. And first of all, Patty, you have my deepest sympathies and condolences. I know that Rhonda was not only your employee, but she was a dear, dear friend of yours. Right. You just said that you guys spoke all the time. And
every day, yes.
And so,
honestly, the more I think about it, I keep thinking, you know, people ask what the loss is to the library, and I keep saying you can't quantify the loss. It's not something you could quantify, because she just was everything.
She was every time I would come here as either a customer, I guess a library patron, friend, or on the job. She was always here, always so effervescent and fun and very, very passionate about everything that she did. And I know she's going to be so greatly missed. But tell us, start us at the beginning. She's been here at the library, we just realized, for almost 20 years.
Yes.
So start us at the beginning. Tell us all about Miss Rhonda.
I can tell you that I've known her for over 20 years. But when I first came to know her very casually, she was working at the Provident Bookstore. And I was at the library, which was still a storefront on Pittsburgh Street. And I heard the Provident Bookstore was closing. Now, she had called me, I don't know how many times, you know, saying, this book came in, I think it would be great for your kids, this book, you know. And she kept giving me updates and things. And when I heard the bookstore was closing, I immediately thought, okay, we need her. And at that time, my assistant was actually leaving the library and moving to Virginia.
Oh, perfect
so it was
timing.
Perfect timing, as we always would say. Everything was just perfect, the way things worked out. So I was on vacation in Chicago, and I literally got on the phone and tracked her down and said, I understand you're, you know, going to be losing your job because they're closing. And I said, I really want you here. And she said, I just never thought of that. And I said, well, I don't want you to think about it. I just want you to say yes. And believe it or not, she said yes. So she didn't even have a week off. She says, I never even got to collect unemployment or anything. And I brought her right in. And I was very excited because I knew she had the music. She had the connection with children. She had the dramatics. She was always doing shows and costuming and all these different things. And I knew she would be a perfect match. And she was.
And she was.
Yes.
Well, I always called her, Patty and I were just talking, I always referred to her as the children's librarian, but she was actually your assistant
director. She was hired as the assistant library director. But as you know, at that time especially, we were very small. And it was basically, you know, us and a couple of helpers that we had at the front desk and so on. And so I had been doing some things, and I had Angie Pitzer, a former Scottdale resident, was our children's, doing the story hours and things. And when I brought Rhonda in, she was right on board with everything I had in mind. My first degree was in elementary education, and so I really wanted to focus on the children. And I told her, I said, I want to use the Pennsylvania Early Learning Standards as the basis for our story hour. And she has turned it into a top-notch program where the kids are really learning. She incorporated STEM activities into everything that she did. It was amazing.
But she made it fun for the kids, though, too. I think a lot of times the children didn't even realize that they were learning.
Right. Absolutely.
Because she was, as Patty said, dramatic costume. I think she found excuses to wear costumes, and she always had the nicest ones. I mean, she didn't
had
go
wonderful
to Walmart
costumes.
and buy, you know,
No.
she went
She
all
has
out.
a
Beautiful
third
costumes.
store of her brother-in-law's house that he leases or rents to people, Dr. Bigley. And he lets her use the third floor for rent, you know, all of her costumes and props and things. And I know she'd say, I have to go over and get something. And I knew she was getting another costume or something for one of her programs because she made it fun for them.
She sure did. And the numbers of children that would show up here every week for the reading hour, every summer for the summer programs was definitely a testament to Rhonda. She had a lot to do with the excitement that was generated here from these young minds. I mean, they would just sit here on the floor. And first of all, this room is absolutely beautiful. I've been in many libraries in the area, and I tell people this every library does have at least a section dedicated to children, but to have an entire room, and this was Miss Rhonda's domain. I mean, she made it special. She always brought fun things in for the kids, and this is.
You always would walk around and just be looking in amazement because you didn't know. And Rhonda had an amazing ability to gather not only people, but resources to make the programs really exciting. You know, a crazy thing, if you look up on the wall at one point, there's a Chinese dragon up there. And she was in the restaurant in town and said to the owner, if you ever want to get rid of that dragon, I think he would look great. And they would be right on board.
Like here.
Absolutely. This is, you, Miss Rhonda wants it? Absolutely. And that's what would happen over and over. We had a philosophy here that Rhonda embraced wholeheartedly, and that was you build memories for children, things that they can cherish their lifelong through, that you would, you know, you can make memories for children.
Right.
And she was very cognizant of the fact that there were probably some children in our community that may never leave the boundaries of Scottdale or Mount Pleasant or Connellsville. And so she would bring the world into them. And she did it beautifully. She would take them to space. She would take them to other countries. I mean, she was just so good at what she did.
And I think it's kind of fun. And there again, too, I'm probably exaggerating, but I swear every time I stopped in, she would be so excited because she got a grant for this, or she found money for this, or she was always looking. It was always in the back of her mind to find money to generate, you know, to get something going. And she did. She always had something going.
What she could do with almost nothing was amazing. Absolutely amazing.
But I didn't, Patty and I were just talking about this again, I didn't really realize, but even COVID didn't stop Rhonda.
Oh, that's true.
Whenever the plug was pulled on all of the libraries in the area, and well, mostly everything in the area, would you say a week? She let a week go by?
I think it was March 16th when we got the email saying that all the libraries in the state were to shut down, you know, and operate from home in whatever way you could. By that Wednesday, we were filming virtually, and she took things to her kitchen and filmed from her kitchen so that the kids would not have a time where they were down and weren't continuing the process of learning that she had already instilled. And she actually got her husband to hold, she filmed on her iPhone, and she was just amazing.
And
I mean,
it was live on Facebook.
It was the props. It was everything from her kitchen.
That's it. That just didn't let anything. Even COVID couldn't stop her.
Right.
Now she did. She actually started some programs here. You want to tell us about some of the things that she started?
Absolutely. One of the things that it's a national program, but she brought it in here to the library was 1,000 books before kindergarten. And this is a program where parents are to read to their little ones, even from birth, you know, from birth. Read to your little ones. The more words they hear, the more verbal they're going to be, and it's a very important developmental skill. So this 100,000 books before kindergarten really took off, and when they completed that, they would come into the library, Rhonda would take their picture, and they end up on our Hall of Fame.
And that has to be something, too, that they can come and see.
Absolutely.
Be very proud of.
And, you know, I will share on a personal note, her daughter-in-law, Emily Allison, told me that Rhonda's only grandchild, Hadley, was this close to completing her 1,000 books. And so Emily is going to bring her in, and we're going to take her picture for Grandma, and we will put that on the wall. Put her on the wall as well.
There's going to be so many, I think, so many nice memories of her out there. Something I just heard yesterday, and Patty didn't even know this, back when they were across the street. Tell us about Trunk and Treat real quick.
Right. Well, she started this program called Trunk or Treat, and we would literally get parents to volunteer and decorate their trunks of their cars with, for Halloween, so that the kids could have a fun time right here in Scottdale.
And safe, too.
Right, safe. And that morphed into the Harvest Hoedown, because Rhonda's only interest wasn't just little children. She cared very much for elderly and for those who were homebound. And so with Harvest Hoedown, she talked to the people at Woodcrest, because we also have a program called Have Books Will Travel, which was basically Rhonda's car. And she would put books in there, take them out to Woodcrest, and go to every room and say, would you like to read something? And she would do this every Thursday. She also did that at Scottdale Rehab. And there were a few shut-in people throughout time that she would take the books to as well. Well, talking to Woodcrest, she said to them, these people don't get to do trick-or-treat anymore. So she brought the whole program. It took 2 days just to get all her gear out to Woodcrest, set up, and all of the residents would be around in chairs or wheelchairs or in their rooms if they were unable, and they could participate in Trick or Treat. And she brought the children that we had from Trunk or Treat. They would all be in costumes, so all of the people, the older people, the littlest people, got to interact, and it was wonderful.
It was, and I'm so pleased to have been able to cover this year after year after year. Every year she would be elaborately costumed.
Yes.
And like Patty said, she's very clever. She would wear a costume themed towards what the next summer's
summer reading
program was
yes.
going to be about. So that's pretty cool.
Right.
But Rhonda, I think, had more fun than the kids did, to be perfectly honest, because she would have the games. You know, she would be running the games, and then she would have the crafts. But what was so cool was, as Patty said, literally dozens of residents would be lined around the outsides, and they would be sitting with their little bowls of candy. And the kids would go around, and it was so neat for the children to see the elderly and the elderly to see the children. And Rhonda just smiling the whole time.
Met two important needs.
Yes, and she actually, the last couple years, asked me not to put anything in the paper because
it was overwhelming.
It was there was hundreds of kids that knew, the families that knew year after year that this was going to be an annual event. So there was no need to publicize it anymore.
Right. Yeah, it was wonderful, absolutely wonderful, and. It will, we don't know if we'll be allowed to do it this year. I'm guessing not, because I think a lot of the nursing homes are.
I have heard that it's definitely, it's a no this year, but next
it
year.
will, once we get through this, we will be back in business.
And they're going to name it?
That's what I'm hearing, that we're going to call it the Rhonda Allison Harvest Hoedown.
Which she would absolutely
love it. She would absolutely love it.
Well, anything else about Rhonda here at the library? I mean, this could be a series. I mean, it could be. Really, we were talking about how tall she was, all 4'10" of her.
Yeah, she was
the mightiest, biggest personality ever. And
mighty and full of love and full of ideas and just an all-around really wonderful person and one of the dearest friends.
That loved life. She loved the children. She loved teaching. She was so proud of her children. But I did
her love of music, you've got to. She brought that into these kids. She brought in African drummers. She brought in the Westmoreland Symphony, small groups. I mean, she brought in every instrument she could find, so that they could see what they were all like. And maybe you'd like to play one of those one day.
She's amazing. And she brought in Tank.
Tank we also had, she's the one who
Tank was
got
awesome.
our Tank the library dog.
Yes, and he would lay here and the kids would hug him and read to him, and he would be a part of, he would be a part of Story Hour, and that was her as well.
Yeah.
But I did want to tell you folks, so many patrons made such wonderful donations of books and monetary donations in Rhonda's name. I know the library would greatly appreciate anything that would be donated in her name. I know there's a couple things on the back burner you guys are talking about doing special, and the community as well. It's not just just the library. Rhonda was a big, giant part of Scottdale. of the community, of the people, and of everyone here.
Yes.
So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for being a part of our show.
And thank you for doing this.
Oh, it's
in honor of our dear friend.
Rick suggested it, and it was so funny because I was thinking about it myself, and I thought it'd be so nice to do a show, and we must have just been in sync because it was not very much after that. He texted me and said, hey, and I said, yes, I think this would be wonderful to bring to everybody. Because there's some of you folks out there that might not really be familiar with Rhonda, and I hope this might give you a little bit of an idea of what a really great woman she was.
Absolutely.
Well, folks, for our second part of the show here on Rhonda, we have one of her lovely daughters, Rochelle, who has agreed to spend some time with us and tell us a little bit about her mom. But first of all, before we continue, our deepest sympathies from everyone at Armstrong to you and Rihanna and Ryan and your dad and the rest of your family and friends. You guys have all been in our minds ever since your mom passed away. So.
Thank you.
But okay, so tell us, we heard a lot about her contribution as far as the library in the community, and that was just a little bit of what your mom was all about. A lot of people that didn't really, should I say, connect Rhonda to the library, connected her to music. And she and I were just talking. Was her brother, Rodney?
Yeah.
Formed the Scottdale Community Band.
Yeah.
Which I think is fun. I guess they decided one day they just wanted a band. And tell us what happened.
Yeah, I know that she always said so many people had their instruments in their attics. And they were just collecting dust, and she wanted a way to get those instruments out of everyone's attic. And it's so funny because I would always tell my friends that I'd bring around, if they told me they played some sort of instrument, I'd be like, well, don't tell my mom, because if you tell my mom, you're going to be in the community band. She was always recruiting, and, people would be like, I haven't played in years, and she'd be like, oh, we'll help you. You'll just pick it up, and then you'll be able to play right away, and it's fine.
And she was very, the community band, I know, was a real big passion for her, because it seemed like anytime there would be an event or anything, she'd say, oh, well, the Scottdale band can play. The Scottdale band will be there.
Yeah.
And they were always a fixture at the festival in the fall, and I know they played at the gazebo. They were even here a couple times for the Christmas event, I remember.
Yes,
they played inside.
Yeah, my favorite one, I would say the Ligonier concert that we would do. Okay. I mean, that was their biggest one, and I have a video from last year. I was able to go, and my dad sang God Bless America, and all of the veterans stood up and started singing with him, and then everybody else stood up and started singing, and I got that on video.
Oh,
but I had no idea.
That has to be.
I had no idea at that time that it would have been the last time that I would have, been there and seen that. So I'm so glad I have. I mean, I haven't watched any videos that I have, but I know that I have it there, and it was just the sweetest thing.
And it was the band was very important to her. As I said, I know that she it was fun. That wasn't the only band that she was involved in, though. I always thought it was very fun to see her at the parades as part of the Mount Pleasant Firemen's Band.
Yes.
She's not from Mount Pleasant, nor is she a fireman. But all 4'10" of her with all the other big guys, and I always got her picture because I thought it was such a hoot.
It was always a running joke because my mom would be in pants and her tie, and my dad would be in his kilt and his shirt, playing the bass drum. Every year it was an ongoing joke that they had. It was just fun.
And when your sister plays bagpipes, we were talking about that too. And I remember that because she spells her name very odd. And every single time I took her picture, she'd be ready for me, because she'd be the little thing up front with the bagpipes, and of course she'd get her picture. But
yes.
All these years I never learned how to spell her name. But your family's so musical. I know you said you don't play anything, but you sing.
Yeah, I sing. Yeah, and I know that I was already working on my songs for Christmas because I knew that she would have me sing a solo. It was every year. The whole family did. So, and I would sing at the Christmas banquets up at our church camp with them too. I don't think I got to last year, but I know the year before I did, and I was going to this year. But of course, I won't get to do that. But I just have wonderful memories with her, singing solos with her, and duets. And she had my sister and I do a duet together one time, and my sister sounds like a little mouse. Like, she's a beautiful voice, but she sounds like a mouse, and I just sing so loud. And, you know, after the song was done, she was like, we're not going to do that again, because it just...
Tried that.
You just couldn't hear my sister at all, and I just came in just so loud, and she was like, we're not doing that again. And I think that was in 2007, and we haven't done a duet together since.
Well, she also, too, speaking of singing, did she form, or was she part of the original Heritage Singers?
I think she started to form the Heritage Singers.
was
I
part
think
of
with my Uncle Rodney.
I know.
Again, too, like with my Uncle Rodney, I think they started that, too.
And what the Heritage Singers were, they would dress in period costume, and they would sing period songs.
Yeah, and they did shows, too. Like, one of the
Okay.
last ones that I remember was Milltown Yank. When my Uncle Rodney had cancer, I remember they did it at the Geyer Theater. And that was the only show that I was in because I was so young. But the only thing I passed out Cracker Jacks and was dressed as. And I don't even know what those outfits would be called. I had like
Victorian?
I had like a little hat on.
Okay.
Like I was at a baseball game and we passed out Cracker Jacks to
Oh,
all
I
the
get
audience.
it for the baseball. Okay,
Yeah,
all right.
yeah. So that's the last memory I have of the Heritage Singers, I believe, would be that. And they videotaped it for my Uncle Rodney. And I remember one of the last memories I have is all of them waving up at the camera and saying, "Hi, Rodney," after the show. So
Yeah, the Heritage Singers got together a couple times over the last couple years during the Christmas tour. They would be at the Laux Mansion. I know there was a few of them that would show up, and she was always excited to do that. I don't think they've done it recently.
I just know, I think maybe it was last year, they added me, and we did a song with the Heritage Singers group, the original, at our church on our Sunday night, on our Christmas Eve service. I can't remember what song it was, but we did, that was the last time probably anybody did anything
With as far as the Heritage Singers. Okay.
Yeah.
And also, too, for years and years and years and years, she taught piano.
Yeah. Yeah, she...
Taught piano to a lot of people. I know that
Yeah,
was a big
and-
thing for her.
And the thing about her, when people teach piano, the prices are so high to get piano lessons. And she never would raise her prices because she just wanted people to learn how to play. She didn't want the money,
Right.
you know, it was just, she was so much focused on just people learning how to play piano. And I wish that I would have, I got lessons from my grandma, but then when she passed, I wasn't bitter, but it took me a while to be able to focus on piano more. And at that point, I started college and all, you know, and all the things that happen in life.
Just piano wasn't part of it.
Yeah, I mean, she just not bought me, but she just got me a piano, a keyboard, so I could start practicing again.
Okay.
So, and that was about a month ago. So I'm gonna
I'll cherish that.
teach myself.
So I years and years ago, whenever I went over to your house to interview Rhonda, I think it had to do with her piano lessons. It's been so many years, I don't remember. The one thing I thought was so cool, and she and I were just talking about this, their house is lovely. It has all these really cool things in it, these cool antiques. And I commented on a couple pieces, and she said she's a dumpster diver. She went and got these at dumpsters and out of people's front yards. And again, I can just see all 4'10" of her, you know, with her legs in the air in a dumpster someplace. But I guess it's been inherited.
Oh my gosh. Yes, it was. I just got a brand new $1,000 desk out of the trash by my apartment because I needed a desk. It has like 8 drawers in it, and I'm like, oh my god, I can't believe the stuff people throw away. It was always an ongoing joke because every time we go to Lancaster every year, and my dad would go into the schools and do his thing, and we would just go shopping. And I was like, now remember, I'm going to be in the back, so you have to fit me in somewhere. And we had like a giant trunk that my mom found at Goodwill, and I was like sitting next to it and had my arm on top of it, and there was maybe about this much space for me. And my dad just opens the door and looks at me, and he's like, well, get in. And I was like, where? It was every time.
They're treasures, though, I'll tell you
Oh, my
what.
gosh. Rhiannon and I, whenever we would be at home, you know, after she passed, we're going through stuff, and we just wrecked the house. We wrecked the house because we tried to be organized, but we're like, look at this, and we're like, look at this. Oh, my gosh, look at this.
All kinds of
And then we
exciting.
just turned around, and my dad's like, what happened? And we're like, I'm sorry we have to leave you like this, but here's this beautiful mess over here.
So how I can imagine or should I say, I can't imagine. You must have had such an outpouring of support from the community and
Yes.
from people telling you. I mean, have you been hearing a lot about your mom from?
Yes. Oh my gosh. We have a friend that was in the community band. She played the drums. Nicole. She sent me a message, and she's all the way in China right now. Years ago, when she had her first child, my mom, I think, sent her music books or kids books or something with a Post-it note on them that said "Start them young with music." And she said she kept that Post-it, and it's been sitting on her fridge and goes wherever she goes. And she sent me a picture of that.
Aww.
And I thought it was the sweetest thing. And just the viewing and the funeral in general. I mean, I think there was a point where it was lined out the door. I don't even remember who was there because there were so many people. And it was just amazing, the people that came out to see her. I think, and my sister and I said, I think that the community is grieving harder than we are. I mean, there were people that were just so shocked. I saw my teacher from high school crying, and he's a big, buff science teacher, you know, and I couldn't believe it.
It must make you guys feel so wonderful, though, to know
Yes.
what an impression. You probably didn't even realize what an impression she made on so many people, so many different levels, so many different aspects in life. I mean,
Oh
she
my
just
gosh.
was.
I've learned
something.
so much about my mom.
And you're going to keep learning, too.
Yes.
You're going to keep hearing stories.
I could not believe just people I didn't even know, like that I knew from high school messaging me and being like, she was like a second mom to me, and I was like, really? Like, I had no idea.
See? And wonderful.
Yeah.
And I think it's really cool, too, that you and your sister set up the Facebook
Yes.
donation. You want to tell folks about that?
Yeah, it was weird how that worked because I shared a picture of her when she bought me my Christmas gifts that I found downstairs. And I didn't even really set it up. It kind of just popped up on there automatically.
Really?
Yeah, and
Okay.
I was like, okay, yeah, I'll just keep this here and just see what happens. I was almost like, is this my mom? Like, just adding this in here. And yeah, we almost raised like $300 through Facebook.
Oh, great.
And not to mention the amount of people that donated at the funeral home. I mean, it was every day. My dad would be like, we have another stack of cards, and we would split them up all three and have like 10 cards to open each. I mean, it's just amazing the amount of support that we've had.
It must make you feel good, as I said.
Oh my gosh, yeah. You know, we were peaceful, we're sad, but growing up in my home, death was never scary because it was never the end. We always knew that it was just the end of a chapter and that she's in heaven and, you know, and God has a plan for us. So we've taken comfort in that, and it's difficult, but, you know.
Sure. That's why I'm so happy that you came with me today.
Yeah.
I asked her yesterday if she was going to be able to, and she said she knew her mom would want her to.
Yeah. Yeah,
So-
I knew it would make her happy, and she's just so wonderful. And I was telling my friends, I was like, I can't imagine being in a home where death was the end, and I hurt more for the people that are in homes where death was the end, and they don't know where you go after that.
Right.
Because my mom so firmly believed that. She loved Jesus Christ, and she knows that she's in heaven. We know she's in heaven. I told my dad yesterday, I was like, I bet you any money that she's playing with my future children right now, and like my sister's future children, my brother, if we have more children, I was like, I can almost guarantee you that she's probably doing story hour up there anyway.
And giving them all an instrument to play.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, thank you so much for being with us. Anything else you want to add about your mom? Or
I don't think so. There's so much that she's done, and we would need a whole museum
that's
to express the woman that she was.
No.
But
maybe that'll happen someday.
I'm blessed to be able to call her mom. So
well, thank you again.
Thank you.
And again, folks, if anybody wants to make any donations in Rhonda's memory, I know the library will be really happy. You can send something in or stop in yourself, and maybe stop in. That's a great idea. Walk around, you can get a little bit of idea of the woman that she was.
yes,
Thanks.
thank you.
Well, folks, I hope you enjoyed the show. I know for those of you out there who knew Rhonda, this was probably a bittersweet walk down memory lane for you. And for those that don't know Rhonda, maybe you got a little bit of an idea of what a really exceptional person she was. Again, they are going to be taking donations here at the library in her name, and right now I'm standing in one of her favorite spots. She loved this little garden that's located off the side of the library. So there again too, if you want to donate, maybe you can even donate a plant or something like that in her memory, just to keep it going. I want to say again, like I've said in many shows before, I absolutely love whenever fans come up and tell me what they think about the show. And even though now you only see my eyes, I still appreciate you coming up and telling me your thoughts. A couple quick fan shout outs to Art, my neighbor, Tammy from Leo's, and Kathy from Tractor Supply. These are 3 fans that said they've really enjoyed the program for a long time, and they love watching the local station, the local program. So folks, there again too, if you see me out and about, please stop and say hi. I love hearing from you. So, as you know, what I always say, folks, keep smiling, keep dreaming, and keep watching.